Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay, here to talk. Well, first of all, being that it's the second night of Ramadan, I want to wish everyone Ramadan Kareem, all our Muslim friends on Facebook and here on YouTube. Um, I hope you have a joyous uh, Ramadan, a joyous season with your family and friends. And just remember to keep those in the Muslim world, especially in Palestine, other parts of the Muslim world where brothers and sisters are suffering in your prayers and your thoughts as you fast this season. Secondly, what I want to talk about Candace Owens, our favorite political commentator slash stir of the mess, um, basically political provocateur. Candace Owens is at it again, but instead of making her the target of her vitriol, um, rappers like Megan Thee Stallion or Cardi B, the target of her vitriol is now the disabled community. Recently, there was an ad out of a model, a Skims model, in basically an underwear. Owens felt the need to complain about what she called forced representation. It says in the article, and I quote, I don't really understand how far we're going to take this inclusivity thing. I really don't get it, she said. I've never seen a bra and underwear advertisement with a girl in a wheelchair. Why do they do this? I don't get it, why this needs to be done, but I'm getting tired of all this inclusivity thing. It just seems ridiculous. Well, Kansas, I'll tell you why. It's not only a thing of forced inclusivity. First of all, many would argue that representation indeed does matter. The old saying goes, uh, it's hard to see myself doing it if I've never seen myself doing it. You can't be what you can't see. That's why representation matters for Hispanic actors and Hispanic roles, which things we've talked about in this channel before, like Encanto the movie or Coco the movie or West Side Story or In the Heights. Culturally valuable things. With regards to the Hispanic community, it matters for the Black community when it comes to movies like Black Panther or The Woman King or other forms of popular media. It matters for all kinds of ethnic communities. We've always talked about that. Uh, Captain Marvel for the South Asian Muslim community with the Muslim girl. This is the new thing. And sometimes, yes, I agree, it may seem forced in certain senses, like when they put the original John Connor from the Terminator movies uh, was a white male, and then they switched it off to Natalie Reyes' character, Danny Ramos, a Hispanic girl, and they made the entire theme of the new savior of humanity in 2019's Terminator Salvation, a whole thing about immigration and border control, and they switched basically the whole storyline, and they just made it like more Hispanic. I agree that's somewhat forced. Same thing with uh the first Captain Marvel, right? Same thing many people said with Star Wars. Why put a female at the helm? I can see how that seems forced. But with this case, could seem forced to some, and that's basically become the cause du jour for many conservatives. All they do is complain. Something new comes out in some complain, especially when it has a woman, black person, or a person of color. They say, well, why it has to be a person of color? Why it has to be a female? Why it has to be a member of a marginalized group? And on the flip side, social justice warriors, people that are on the political, use it as a way to quiet down or pacify the specific group by telling, listen, you got your role in Star Wars, you got your role in some kind of political office, some kind of, uh, you know, kind of media representation, whether it be political office or something in pop culture. But this, I believe, was, advertisements and ads, like you go on some of these websites and some of the social media apps, all you see now is mixed race couples, people of mixed race, advertising certain products. And that's basically become the center of our political discussion, whether on both sides, the SJWs, political and social liberals, being for it, and sometimes stopping full stop at just that. They'll stop at cultural and media representation, and they won't push it any further to actually get it right. So just like, okay, having an LGBT character, having a black character in this, having a person of color, having a woman, having whatever is good enough, or having somebody like that in office is good enough, and not pushing it further to advocate for the political and social equality of that person in real life. These are these are just characters in a fiction movie, or representations in an ad after all, or just political figureheads even. You know what I mean? Not necessarily, they're not going to enact any political change because of the way the system really works, in a sense, even on the political side, because there's so much deliberation and so much filibustering on the political level, especially like the local scene, like with Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, or Eric Adams, the mayor. Not to say that they don't matter, they do. You know what I'm saying? But how much substantial political change can they really make for their specific marginalized group? They can fight, and it's always a constant fight. We're never actually there. I mean, it's a climb basically in real time, and having representation in popular media does help, does alleviate. Um, no one can deny, from a historical standpoint, that having um, black representation in music in the 1950s and 60s, when black popular music became all the rage, with first the birth of rock and roll, and then the birth of Motown in um, in in popular culture in the United States, especially Motown becoming the sound of young America in the 60s, helped to push the civil rights movement forward, because people became more acclimated to seeing black faces, especially in Motown. Rock and roll, not really so much, because the way the music industry was structured in the 50s, um, black artists would put out a popular song, this song would become popular, and then it'd be covered by a white artist. See Little Richard and Pat Boone for that. But by the 1950s, with Motown, you know, Barry Gordy had made sure that black artists took control of their music, control of their media, and the black artists became the face of popular music in young America for a time in the early 60s, and that helped push forward the civil rights movement. Because, hey, if my favorite singer can be Diana Ross, or can be Stevie Wonder, or can be the Temptations, then I might as well push for political and social equality of black people across the board. And that's inevitably what happened. Not a fight on the behalf of Martin Luther King or others. Sure, you know that was true, and the same thing for the LGBT community. When Will and Grace debuted, in 1998 on NBC. It was very unusual to have an LGBT character. In fact, the year before that, Ellen DeGeneres had come out as a lesbian and was taken off the rival network ABC. So representation on television was not a thing um, in uh, before 1998. And the fact that Will and Grace became so popular and became part of the cultural zeitgeist helped to push the marriage equality movement forward. It helped um, gay people and lesbian people become more acceptable in the American consciousness and become just a part of regular American life as anybody that was heterosexual. So this is why what people mean when they say representation matters. But of course, Candace Owens trying to be provocative and trying to be contrarian, she would disagree with all these statements. She would attest that America should go back to the way it was, pre the civil rights movement, when there were no black or LGBT or any marginalized group representation in the media, and that these things don't matter, which is an irony because if that were the case, she herself would not be out of a job because she herself, her image is predicated on the fact that she is a relatively attractive political commentator that is on the political right that is black. If she weren't that, if she were less attractive, if she were not black, just as Joe Rogan had said, she would not stick out to people on the Daily Wire as much. She would not be the political darling of the conservative movement. They're able to take her and point to her and isolate her and say that she is, look, there's a black voice, there's a black female voice that is young, that is a millennial, that is agreeing with us. And they're able to say, see, I told you we're not out of touch. We have a young person agreeing with us. I told you we're not racist. We have a black woman agreeing with us. I told you we're not sexist. We have a woman agreeing with us. So basically, she's against tokenism, but tokenism is the main reason why she is employed by the Daily Wire. She sits up there with Michael Knowles, Andrew Clavin, and Ben Shapiro as the sole woman on the panel and as the sole black person on the panel. And the only reason why she's there is because of who she is, not what she is. It's not a meritocracy. It's not because she's not there because she's the smartest in the room. She's not the Dos Equis man. She's not the most witty in the room. She's not a comedian. She's not the most politically informed person in the room. All of her talking points are talking points that have been reiterated by the right throughout basically the latter half of the 20th century. She's not saying anything new or innovative. So if you're going to be against tokenism, then I guess you have to remove yourself from the Daily Wire because you yourself are, excuse the phrase, a token Negro or a token black person, quote unquote, on the Daily Wire. You yourself are the very thing that you're speaking against. If we remove tokenism or remove token representation, you'd be out of a job. You wouldn't be there. And in fact, Ben Shapiro himself wouldn't even be there because he is the token Jewish person. He is the person that I know the Daily Wire is his company or his production agency, but if there's an anti-Semitic attack from the right, he never speaks on it. That he is constantly castigating the left, and especially Ilhan Omar for being an anti-Semite, but never speaks about the anti-Semitism that emanates from the likes of Nick Fuentes. I know he's against Nick Fuentes and he's against the American Firsters and all that. So but he doesn't speak as vociferously as he would if it were coming from the left. And the quote unquote anti Semitism that he speaks of on the left is not the hatred of Jewish people as a people, but the disagreement with the uber conservative politics of Israel and the right wing anti Arab, anti Palestinian stance that a lot on the Israeli right have taken, especially now with um, the reascension of Netanyahu to the throne and people like Itamar Ben Gvir, others in the political right in Israel, especially the religious right in Israel, how they have come to dominate the Knesset and how the Knesset is now trying to overtake the judicial branch by removing judicial review with these and the basic laws in these new forms. So he himself is a product of tokenism. Dave Rubin, similar. Dave Rubin, since he went away from TYT in early 2016, and he started to say that he was a reform, quote unquote, liberal. He started appearing on PragerU. He started becoming the gay darling of the right. He's become the gay anti-gay, the token gay guy that says everything the right would want to hear from a gay guy. Say, see, look, we're not homophobic. We have a gay guy on our side. We're not homophobic. We have a man who's married to a man and who has an adopted child with a man. We can't be homophobic. Tokenism is rife on the right. They'll take any politically marginalized group, any political group that is specifically leftist, and prop that person, prop a person like that up as a representation for the contrarian view that they have. They'll take an atheist like Bill Maher. They'll take a trans person like Blair White. They'll take a black person like Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum. They'll take a gay person like Dave Rubin, and they'll say, see, look, even they agree with us. The left's views have gone so far left, for lack of a better term, that even these people that were former leftists have now converted to the right and propped them up as token gays, token Jews, and token black people, and even token Hispanics. I've seen it. Nick Fuentes, I guess, is kind of Hispanic, so they kind of include him in that. But they've done it with other people. They did it with Ted Cruz. They said, well, look, we can't be anti-Hispanic. Ted Cruz, he's a Cuban. His father was a Cuban dissident, knowing that Cuban people, especially those in Miami, are majority conservative anyway, so it's not really saying anything. Or they'll take anybody that was a former leftist and belongs to a political marginalized group and make that person the top darling of the Republican Party. If you're a regular if you're not excuse me, not a regular person, if you're a regular white guy, right, and you don't belong to any marginalized group or you don't have any sort of flavor, you're a heterosexual Christian white male, you can't become a star as a political commentator on the right. They won't promote you as much. They won't prop you up as much. But if you're a convert to that, and you've always been a right winger, they won't prop you up as much. But if you're a convert to um, the right wing ideology from the left, especially from a politically marginalized group, they'll prop you up all the way. They'll promote you all the way. They look how they promoted Milo Yiannopoulos. Look how they promoted Shapiro. Look how they promote Dave Rubin again. Like I said, uh, look how they promote Blair White. Look how they promote all these people. The other girl, Annabella Sakura, the lesbian one that crossed over to Crowder's side and did the interviews with Steven Crowder. All of these people belong to politically marginalized groups or groups that they defected away from their side, their left wing side, their left wing ideology, and have now come over to the right side. And these people have become political darlings of the conservative movement. Ayan Hirsi Ali for the Muslim side, Imam Tawheed for the Muslim side as well. People that they pay them basically to speak against their former side and to talk trash and to talk junk about their side. their old side and basically put down their old side. They'll put them on PragerU. They'll put him on Stephen Louder with Crowder. They'll put him on the Dave Rubin Show. They'll put him on the Daily Wire. All these conservative platforms just to talk crap about their former side and their political and social and ethnic group, and to delegitimize the representation movement on the behalf of the status quo and social conformist of the conservatives. And I'm really on the behalf of, I'm not going to say they're oppressors. I'm not going to say go that far. I know a lot of people would want me to go that far and to say, yeah, um, uh, that these status quo population, straight white males, are the oppressors of these groups. But I'm not going to say that. I'll say that, uh, you know, they're just the dominant group. They'll pay these people good money to speak against their marginalized group on the behalf of the dominant group, whether they be religious, social, even the disabled community. If they could find somebody that was articulate and intelligent from the disabled community that's advocating the conservative position of conformity on the behalf of them, they would prop this person up too. So for her to say that she's against tokenism, what she's indicating with that quote is redundant, because if you're against tokenism, then you're against yourself. You're against your ilk. You're against the people, all the social commentators that came pre 2016 and especially post 2016 with Trump, all had some kind of tokenism attached to them. Gays for Trump, Latinos for Trump, black people for Trump, um, trans people for Trump, immigrants for Trump. All of this stuff was such and such for Trump as a caveat, because they know the majority of their social and political group was not for Trump, because Trump was advocating a political and social platform that was antithetical to their social and political progress. You know what I mean? So why would they be for Trump? Just because they're against the obnoxiousness oftentimes and the obsequiousness of SJWs, or the annoyance of SJWs, which is basic, which SJW is basically a pejorative, used by them. But it was an oversimplification of how extreme some political liberals can become, like the blue-haired feminist, you know, like destiny personified. So they became special snowflakes. They became the special key ingredient to trying to convert people from their group over to the Trump side and trying to make the ultra switch. Because before, prior to that, conservatives had never really reached out to marginalized groups. They never really cared much about marginalized groups. But the 2020, excuse me, the 2012 election showed them that there was a distinct switch that went off in their head, that they couldn't just appeal to white males anymore. They couldn't just appeal to the dominant white, straight, able-bodied males. They had to appeal to other groups in order to win elections. So they don't want to appeal to them across the board, and they don't want to give them anything of real substance. So they do the exact same thing that the entertainment industry does all the time. Tokenism. The exact same thing that Candace Owens is claiming that she's against in this ad is exactly what her side of the political spectrum does and always does, unless she herself is a product of. So, but beyond that, what I think about this ad in particular, as this ad is reaching out to a demographic of women, especially, that are uniquely neglected. It's not just, it's about the representation, but it's not just about the representation. It's beyond that. It's something that's material. It's something that is tangible. And what I mean by that is, they're not just doing it to boost the self-esteem of women. They're not just doing it to show disabled women that, oh, they can be represented too. They can be part of, they can be sexual, they can be desired. It's not anything. It's that, but there's another dimension to it, and there's a physical dimension to it. And the physical dimension that is there is that a lot of disabled women find it hard to find specific undergarments that are specifically tailored to their physical limitations. I mean, they use wheelchairs, they sit in wheelchairs. So there might be some things that might be harder for them to try on, some things that may be harder for them to get access to physically, in practical terms, not just an aesthetic thing, not just an image thing, but a practical situation, a practical barrier that's to them. So they need they need a model to address their specific issue, not just an idea of tokenism. Because in reality, yes, representation matters, but someone from another group that doesn't have physical limitations could just as adequately, in practical terms, maybe not in social terms, but in practical nuts and bolts terms, address issues that another group can address. But when it comes to people with disabilities, we have certain physical needs, we have certain physical limitations placed on us by our circumstance of being disabled that cannot be addressed by the general population. And Candace Owens should know that, especially when it comes to women's issues, women's health issues, or women's hygiene issues, or women's undergarments or stuff like that. You need someone who is disabled and is who in your predicament addressing your specific issues. So Candace's obtuseness, Candace's um, political um, stance doesn't allow her to think critically and think outside the box and think why this company will want to address this specific demographic group. It all boils down to capitalism. She's not being a good capitalist because when you're a good capitalist, you want to address every single group specifically. So the purchasing power of that specific group is not limited by their physical circumstance. For example, you don't want to build a museum or a facility or a school or anything that makes money, that generates income with physical barriers such as steps, because by doing that you're eliminating wheelchair users from your customer base. So you want to build something that is wheelchair accessible because you want everyone, including wheelchair users, to access it, to be able to go there and to be able to visit it and to be able to partake in it. And when you don't, you're limiting your income take. You're taking out that specific demographic group that can no longer participate in whatever goods and services you have to offer. So lingerie companies don't want to do that with disabled women. They want to reach out to disabled women. They want to accommodate disabled women. And because they want to do that, that makes them smart capitalists. So Candace Owens, claims to be the champion of free market capitalism, who claims to be the champion of free speech, who claims to be the champion of of individualism and against collectivism, should understand that, especially the capitalistic side of it. But she doesn't, because she doesn't think her comments through. She just regurgitates whatever political talking points against quote unquote collectivism or quote unquote social activism or quote unquote SJWism that is handed down from the Daily Wire to her, because she's not a critical thinker. She's not an independent thinker. She engages in just as much groupthink and just as much collectivism as she accuses her adversaries on the right, on the left, of doing. You don't believe it? Look at her sit down interview with Trump, she had the interview with Trump, and Trump being one of the advocates for the vaccine back in 2020, being the person that pushed through the vaccine, through the initial vaccine anyway, in his initiatives in 2020. Basic, she thought he was going to agree with her being on her anti-vax position, and she's interviewing him, and all of a sudden he's pro-vax. He's one of the first people to put through the vax, and then she felt stupid, like she had egg on her face, because she wasn't thinking through why would a president or any prominent political figure reject the vaccine situation when it could be politically expedient to his reelection. Come on, Candace. You weren't critically thinking. You weren't thinking independently. You were just parroting whatever you heard somebody else say, just like a lot of these other talking heads. It's funny how the alternative media, the internet media, was so castigating the mainstream media, even the Republican mainstream media like Fox News, for being, you know, not addressing the left, the quote unquote radicalism of the left adequately, but they fell into the same trap. They began to regurgitate the same old tired talking points that Republicans have been regurgitating, like I said, for the last 40 or 50 years. So Candace should think before she speaks. Don't speak so rashly. Don't speak so rashly. And don't speak against tokenism, because you yourself are a political uh, a political token, a token black person, a token talking black female talking head of an organization. They only have you there because they need a token black voice, and you're attractive and you're seemingly well spoken when programmed with these points to get their points across adequately or adequately enough, you know. And you're a troll. You're basically a troll. You exist within the troll era. You exist within the soundbite era. You exist within the era of the 6ix9ines, the era of the Trumps, the era of the people that try to get under people's skin and be an agent provocateur. Not really thinking. I know her aim, her objective was to get at Kim Kardashian because she saw the success that she had in getting at Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion and figured, hey, I'm going to attack easy targets, people that are apolitical, people that are deemed by the political intelligentsia on the left and the right as just unintelligent, ill-informed people of the reality TV show crowd, like the Kardashians. Um, you know, but remember who engaged, uh, especially who engaged Kim Kardashian in the political world. Who brought her into the political world? It was Donald Trump. It was your boy. It was the person that Candace Owens was blowing the horn for and advocating for. It wasn't anybody in the left. People on the left didn't bring Kim Kardashian in the political world. She was completely alien in the political world before Trump brought her in with the First Step Act. So if you're against celebrities, again, I'm pointing out Candace's hypocrisy. If she's against celebrities commenting on uh, politics, then she should be against it for Trump. I mean, well, Trump, yeah, Trump was a celebrity himself. She should be against it for Trump. She should be against it for Kim Kardashian, and she should be against it for Kanye. But she was completely championing Kanye when he wore the White Lives Matter shirt. She was completely championing Kim Kardashian when Kim Kardashian was buddy buddy with Trump in 2018. But now she's made it a career to attack Kim Kardashian, to go against Kim Kardashian, to expose Kim Kardashian. I guess Black Lives Matter is not as relevant anymore, so she needs a different target. So she tried to go after Kim Kardashian, but she thought by going after Kim Kardashian in this ad that people would back her up, but she took her political stance way too far. And Christina Applegate, who I didn't know had multiple sclerosis. Christina Applegate, of course, starred Married with Children, starred in movies like Hall Pass, came out and said that it was very harmful and hurtful because as a woman with a disability, she knows how hard it is to get clothes. Again, that's the thing that people are not talking about. Is it's hard for disabled women to shop, so they need this kind of model and they need this kind of representative. You know what I mean? And it's smart for companies to reach out to this demographic. Candace wasn't thinking about that. She was just thinking about, okay, here's an easy home run. I'll just go after Kim Kardashian. I'll just talk about tokenism, not really realizing the irony of a token talking about tokenism or advocating against tokenism. Peace, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to see when my next video is coming out. Love you.